This music is prohibited.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. It's your boy TabooThao, and in this video we're going to be going over chapter 4 of the Compound Effect by Darren Hardy. Now in this chapter, the whole thing is kind of taking all the concepts that we've talked about in the previous 3 chapters, tying them together and adding another layer on top of all this. And this chapter focuses on momentum. Before we even get started into this chapter, I want to say that this chapter was probably written for people like myself and probably for other people out there that really want to get to their destination really fast. They want to get to their goal, their vision, their dreams like super fast. But it's counterintuitive to the compound effect. Chapter 4, the chapter of momentum, is really here to alleviate some of that kind of panic that might be ensued of okay, well, I can't wait for the results to come after 1, 2, or 5 years. I need the results to come to me now, or I want them now. So the idea of momentum, the idea here is that you are still gonna need patience. We still need patience no matter what. But if we take the idea of the compound effect and we do it with good habits and we consistently do it every day, what's going to happen is that we're going to start building momentum. And the analogies that the book uses is this. When we were little, we're at this merry-go-round and we're pushing it. Our friends are on this thing and we're pushing it, and it's hard. It's hard to push it right away. But once we get a little speed into it, it starts to become easier and easier and easier the more we keep doing it and doing it. And eventually, once it's fast enough, that we're like, oh my gosh, I can finally get on and experience the air, the wind, the rush of excitement, the adrenaline, or whatever the feeling is. We jump on and it keeps spinning for however long it spins for, and then eventually stops and pauses, and then we have to do the whole process over again. We gotta get back out there and push, and it starts out slow, but eventually we keep pushing. It gets easier and easier and easier. We jump back on, we repeat that process essentially. If we tie this example of the merry-go-round to our habits, it really does reflect what it is. In our workout example, if you start working out, let's say I started working out at the age of 17, right? And it started out rough, and when I got into the rhythm of it, it started to become easier. The reps started to become easier. Even when I added more reps, it was still easier to maintain because I had this rhythm going. So let's say I did that for about a year. I stopped, went off to college, and then came back at the age of 22. But after I took this whole break in between, I didn't really keep up with my workouts regularly. And I just became kind of all that muscle essentially transformed back into fat. At the age of 22, 4 years after I haven't really worked out for a while, consistently, I start doing it again. And it's hard. It's super hard. It may even feel worse than when I was 17, mainly because, one, I'm older, and maybe I'm having this kind of imposter syndrome where I was oh, I used to lift this much. But now it's man, I can't. It's hard. Again, it's going to be hard because we're pushing that merry-go-round again. It's going to be hard right away, but once I get back into the rhythm, it's going to become easier. And when it starts becoming easier and easier and easier, the more I keep doing it, the faster it becomes, the more exhilarating it becomes, the more easy it is for me to keep it spinning if I keep it spinning consistently. So the book ends up calling momentum Big Mo, right? It personifies momentum as a person, essentially, and this person's name is called Big Mo. Once you keep doing your habits that you've established, the compound effect will start. It's going to be slow, it's going to be hard, it's going to be tough. But then eventually it gets to this breaking point, right, where the momentum starts kicking in, where the merry-go-round starts spinning and can spin on itself. It doesn't really need you to push anymore, but if you don't keep pushing, it's going to slow down. But if you keep pushing, it's going to take a life of its own, In order for Big Mo to come pay a visit and really chill with you, come to your house, eat with you, live with you, you really just have to put into practice all of the ideas and the principles that the last 3 chapters I've talked about. And if you don't own the book, or if you don't like reading but you do own the book, or you just don't like reading at all, you can check out the last 3 videos that I posted up. Here you go. Anyways, enough with that. So here are the principles in short. 1, you have to start making new choices based on your goals and your core values. Number 2, you have to start putting those choices through positive behaviors, right? Put them, and essentially it's just start making actions on your choices that you made. Number 3, you have to keep repeating those healthy actions, those new positive behaviors for a long enough time so that they eventually do just become habits where you can just do it without thinking about it, or like forcing yourself to do them because it's so normal to you now. So number 4 is that you have to start putting these newly established habits and put them into routines, because life never goes the way that we want it to. For every new habit that we have, life has a way to come around and basically slap us in the face and be like, yo, that habit that you're trying to make, I'm sorry, I'm gonna put this in front of your life where you can't do them anymore unless you consciously put it into a routine where you can be like, hey, I'm gonna be doing this today, I'm gonna be doing it at this time, and this is the time I've allocated for my habits. You want to kind of put your routines either at the beginning of the day or the end of the day, because the middle of the day is where we tend to allocate our time, give it to other people versus ourselves, right? We go to work, we have a job, we have our family, we have our company, we have whatever it is. And during the day when people are awake, we tend to put value on those things, and we go out and give our time to other people, and we really don't kind of like pay attention to ourselves, which is okay because 1, we're social beings, we're social creatures, and we need that. We need social connections. And this is the reason why it's good to put them into a routine either at the beginning or at the end of the day when nobody is really gonna bother you anymore, because we tend to focus on ourselves at those periods of time. And yeah. Finally, number 5, you have to stay consistent for a long period of time. It's not okay just to establish new habits. It's not okay just to put them in a routine, like brushing your teeth in the morning, or closing your eyes, or watching a video before you go to sleep, right? It's not okay just to do it every so often. We gotta just keep doing it. And then Big Mo will come pay us a visit. So after basically saying all these principles about Big Mo, that Big Mo essentially just comes to you once you start doing all these, once you start using the compound effect to your advantage, once you start building new habits, once you start doing new behaviors. The book essentially just gives a bunch of examples of like what Big Mo has really helped. For example, it talks about Google, it talks about Apple, it talks about Steve Jobs, it talks about Michael Phelps. Basically, it just takes it and uses all these different examples to explain this is how Big Mo helped these big star brands, these big star people, these big star names. Big Mo came to those people's help, Google, Apple, Michael Phelps, etc., and just helped them out, right? And another kind of imagery that the book gives for Big Mo is this idea of a train. Old railroad trains, for example, like the ones in the old days with the cowboys over in the West in America or in the US. So as trains start, it takes forever to start up the train. Well, it doesn't take forever, but it starts getting slow and slow and slow. But once it picks up to a certain amount of speed, it kind of rides itself. It still burns coal, it still burns its own fuel in order to keep it going. But the train essentially is running by itself on the railroad tracks. And when it starts to come to a halt, it takes a while for it to slow down, right? If we didn't press the brakes on that railroad train, it would take a while, and it could take miles before the train eventually stops. That's another benefit of momentum, is that once you build your habit to this crazy standard, it's gonna be, and even if you stop for like 1 day or 2 days, it's still gonna keep going. Your body, your health, your habits are still gonna be there. You're eventually gonna return to it and burn more fuel for the train to keep running forward. Now, if you eventually don't, it's still gonna be a long time. If depending on how long you've been doing it, how long you've been consistent, it's gonna be a long time before the train eventually stops. And so again, that's another benefit or disadvantage, depending on how you look at it, of momentum. The trouble is, right, if you do a habit every day, you go to the gym, you work out, you do the same workout every day, it can get boring. And it doesn't only have to apply to workouts. It could apply to eating healthy. I think everybody knows that. And so the book still stresses, hey, switch it up just a little bit so there's flavor in your life. You know, the book doesn't really go into it, but I like to attribute this to the human need for novelty. As a part of the current human condition, everybody wants novelty. If you challenge somebody to eat a pint of vanilla ice cream every day and they can only eat a pint of vanilla of ice cream every day, I guarantee that people would get bored of eating vanilla ice cream and they would probably just not eat it anymore, because it's like, oh, I'm tired of eating vanilla ice cream every day and there's no other flavors that I can get. So this idea of novelty is kind of what you should use to your advantage. If you're bored of doing the same thing over and over and over and over again, do something different. My suggestion here is that don't be so conformed to the plan. Don't be so detailed oriented where you can't deviate from whatever plan, whatever goal, whatever path that you set out. Again, it's all about the journey, right? That's what the compound effect is trying to highlight. It's about the journey. But the journey doesn't need to be a set in stone path every day. You can change it. In fact, it's better if you do change it, because as you know, no millionaire, no billionaire, nobody who's ever started a business, nobody who's ever become famous has ever had a straight line to their success. It's always been a big whatever. That's essentially what Darren Hardy's trying to capitalize on here, is that, look, things are going to get monotonous. So instead of saying, I'm always going to do every day 20 push-ups, 20 sit-ups, 20 pull-ups, 20 burpees, 20 whatever. Instead of doing those 4 things 20 times every day, switch it up, man. Like, keep the concept just working out alive every day. Yes, work out every day. Make it a habit. But you don't need to do it in this order, this amount of times, all the time. You can change it up, and you can still have Big Mo come give you a visit to like accelerate your life and put you in a place or in a position where you can capitalize on some sort of opportunity that you probably never would have thought that you could have or never would have seen. The last thing that this chapter really talks about is that, it's always going to be harder to pick it back up again if you stop. So just keep it going. Don't stop. Keep going. So the video ends up being pretty short this time around, but it's okay. And if you still got some sort of value off of this, or if you learned something from this, smash that like button, destroy that like button. Let me know that you like the content. And as always, if you're about a community coming together, helping each other through solidarity, come subscribe to the channel. I will be posting more stuff there about just documentation of important parts of my life, important things that I come across, in hopes that it provides value to everybody. So with that, until next time, everybody, peace.
어긴 꿈에서 깨어나고 덕분에 사는 것 같았다고 그 말을 건네주지 못했네 끝까지 모질게 했네 이놈의 이별은 대체 익숙해지지가 않네 끝이 아니기를 바랄게 난 너를 꼭 다시 또 봐야 돼 시간의 숨통이 끊어진 기억에 저편에 두고 온 우리가 지독히 슬프고 아름답게 만든 추억을 현실로 가져와 끝내기 아쉬워